Good morning, everyone. I'm Bernard Asagai, the owner of ExcitingRio.com, and I wanted to make a quick podcast about how things have changed here in Rio de Janeiro since the massive bus protest that took place all across Brazil a few weeks ago. These protests were significant in that, in a very loosely planned scenario, 1.5 million people ended up being on the streets protesting over the course of, I would say, a few weeks. But I wanted to talk about how things have changed since those protests, how things have changed on the ground. A lot of people around the world heard about the protests, but they haven't heard anything in terms of what those protests produced, or why those protests even took place. And so I wanted to take a minute to talk about that. Firstly, I think that people have to understand that though in the media they were called, protests because of bus fare increases, and I think people have to understand that really was just the spark. There has been an undercurrent of disgust and people's patience with regard to massive inflation that has been taking place in the country before the events was already brewing. And so I think that the last bus increase, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. That really, in a massive way, across the board here in all of Brazil, really, people just said, you know what, enough is enough. And that is really what put people on the street to protest. But it must be understood that the protests go far beyond bus fare increases. The bus fare increase was just the ignition that really put the entire country into a protest mode. Something that began about a month and a half ago, but even up until this very day, still exists. You can almost find a protest every day, and I mean that very seriously, because again, the protests go beyond bus fare increases, which have paused. I'm sure they haven't stopped, but there has been a decrease in what bus owners or owners of bus companies, and also what the state allows, with regard to their ability to have increases. Those definitely have not only stopped, but taking, how do I want to say this? There has been I would say, 10 to 15% decrease in the cost for almost every bus fare across, at least across Rio, and I wouldn't be surprised if that same type of logic is not across the board in other states as well. But it must be understood in the broader context of things that there has been a massive inflationary pressure event that has been occurring in all over Brazil. The cost to buy properties, cost to rent properties, cost for cars, cost for just basic things like bread, water, sugar, electricity, daycare services. These prices over the course of 10 years have gone up 300%. And so that, I believe, is what has been ticking people off with regard to how many of the politicians are running many of the states, as well, to be honest, with the country itself. Even with Dilma, a lot of our voters are really pissed off at her presidency because it has not addressed the inflationary pressures. People cannot save. They can't keep anything because prices are always increasing. And what you will find if you really spend time here in Brazil looking on the ground is that the way people are getting by is by putting things on credit. You see a large, massive number of people buying in supermarkets today on credit. This is something that previously was not seen that much, but now it is on a massive scale. What is being earned, if I can call it earned, but what is visible with regard to how people are buying on credit has not only changed dramatically, but it's extremely scary. This is the same type of logic that put the United States and other countries in the credit hot seat that they're trying to get out of right now. This on top of the fact that the country is spending billions to prepare to host the games, the World Cup. Don't forget, the same country right here, Brazil, also hosted the Pan American Games about a decade ago. Again, all of these events have to be paid off, and those provisions in terms of paying for them take years, and not just for the events themselves, but you also are paying on the interest that those events will cost. And so I think that the protests that have been visible over the last few weeks, about a month now, these are definitely issues that have been at the forefront of why the protests began and why they still continue. And I think also one has to understand that the people that are protesting, these are the sons and daughters of the middle class, the college-educated people, and they understand that they're in a hot seat right now. Yeah, things are great with the economy, but what happens when the spending stops? What happens when we have to foot the bill? They have previous history by looking at other countries like Greece, like Portugal, like Spain, like the United States. Things haven't been positive. And so these underpinnings in terms of the issues that they raise, these are issues that those that are protesting definitely understand and are definitely trying not to be in terms of those situations. With regard to hosting the games, with regard to hosting the World Cup. And so I think that these issues have a lot to do with why people are on the street. So I will talk to everyone again later on. I hope you've enjoyed this quick podcast. It's Saturday morning here in Rio de Janeiro. Looking really nice outside today. If you're in Rio, it's a great day